Well, huge crowds have turned out here in Reggio Emilia to welcome the Princess of Wales. This is a really significant moment for Princess Kate as she embarks on a global mission as part of her first overseas visit since her cancer diagnosis.
Meghan Markle just went through what many people online are calling one of the roughest public weeks she has faced in a long time. And the wild part is this: Catherine didn't even have to say a single word to make headlines explode. She simply arrived in Italy, smiled for the cameras, and suddenly, the entire conversation online shifted fast. Everything started in Italy, and honestly, people are still talking about it because the reaction was huge. Catherine traveled to Reggio Emilia as part of her early years project, and the atmosphere around her visit felt completely different from the usual celebrity-style royal coverage. It was calm, polished, respectful, and packed with genuine excitement from the crowd. For people who haven't followed her work closely, Catherine has spent years focused on early childhood development. This is not some random campaign she picked because it sounded trendy or because advisors thought it would boost her image. She has consistently talked about how the first years of a child's life can shape confidence, mental health, learning, and relationships later on. She's met with researchers, teachers, medical professionals, and families across different countries. And she keeps returning to this subject because she clearly sees it as something deeply important. That is exactly why Reggio Emilia mattered so much. The city is known around the world for its respected approach to early education, with experts praising its methods for decades. Choosing that location wasn't accidental. It showed preparation, understanding, and real interest in the topic. But even with all of that, nobody expected the reaction Catherine received the moment she arrived. The crowds were massive, cameras were everywhere, and social media instantly lit up with people praising her presence, style, confidence, and the calm energy she brought to the entire visit. The crowds in Reggio Emilia were absolutely massive. People weren't just casually stopping by for a quick look either. Some had reportedly traveled for hours, nearly 3 hours in certain cases, just for the chance to see Catherine in person. And this wasn't some flashy movie premiere, giant fashion launch, or celebrity concert packed with influencers and cameras. This was a royal visit focused on child development research, education, and early years programs, yet the energy in the streets felt almost unbelievable. Then came the moment that really sent the internet into overdrive. Catherine stepped out of the car completely on her own. No William beside her, no dramatic entrance, no oversized production around her, just her. And the second she appeared, the crowd erupted. The cheering got louder and louder. People were waving from every direction, and the atmosphere instantly turned electric. Even royal reporters looked surprised by how emotional and intense the reaction became. But what happened inside the center caught even more attention. Catherine didn't stand at a distance smiling politely for photos. She immediately got down onto the floor with the children, talking with them naturally, laughing, listening, and fully engaging with them. Then came the moment nobody expected. She started speaking Italian fluently. Not rehearsed phrases either, but real conversation. A lot of people watching online had no idea she had once lived in Florence before university. And suddenly social media exploded with reactions about how effortless and authentic the interaction looked. And the children's reaction honestly said more than any royal expert ever could. They didn't slowly walk over because adults told them to behave for the cameras. They rushed toward her full speed, arms open, smiling and excited like they already trusted her. It looked completely natural, and people online immediately picked up on that energy. There's something people always notice when children are involved. Kids usually react honestly. You can't coach warmth like that. You can't force comfort or connection, especially not with a room full of young children. People watching felt like the kids responded to Catherine in a very genuine way, and that became one of the biggest talking points from the entire trip, By the end of the visit, the media coverage was everywhere. Commentators were calling it a major moment for Catherine's public image, with many saying the trip highlighted exactly why her early years' work has connected so strongly with people over time. Royal expert Hugo Vickers even described the visit as feeling natural and purposeful, and while he stayed careful with his wording, viewers instantly understood the comparison many people online were making. While Catherine was receiving huge cheers and glowing headlines in Italy, the situation over in Montecito, California, was playing out in a completely different way.
Yeah, you hold the baby. We'll get you. Yeah. Oh, and selfie. No. Welcome to come on.
The contrast between the two stories became impossible for people online to ignore. On one side, you had Catherine walking through crowds packed with supporters during a serious project focused on children and education. On the other side, Meghan released a promotional video for her As Ever brand that instantly confused a massive part of the internet. Now, nobody is saying public figures can't promote their own businesses. Celebrities launch brands all the time, and there's nothing unusual about marketing products online. But this particular video quickly turned into a major discussion because viewers genuinely could not figure out the tone it was aiming for. In the clip, Meghan appeared wearing a glamorous evening-style gown while slowly sipping tea, staring intensely into the camera, and making dramatic movements that many viewers described as overly staged. The presentation seemed designed to feel elegant, mysterious, and luxurious. But instead, social media became flooded with people debating what exactly they had just watched. Some commenters said the video felt more like a perfume commercial than a lifestyle brand campaign. Others joked that it looked like an audition tape for a project nobody had explained properly. One viral comment described it as someone acting like they were automatically fascinating, simply because the camera was pointed at them. And that line spread everywhere online because so many people felt it captured the awkward energy of the clip. The issue wasn't necessarily the visuals themselves, it was the reaction gap. Meghan's team may have expected the video to come across as stylish, aspirational, and sophisticated, but a large part of the audience seemed to interpret it very differently. Instead of excitement, the rollout triggered confusion, jokes, reaction videos, and endless commentary across social media platforms. That disconnect has become a growing topic whenever Meghan launches a new project. Supporters still defend her strongly, of course, but critics argue there's an increasing difference between the image being presented and the way audiences actually respond to it. And because Catherine's Italy trip was dominating headlines at the exact same time, the comparisons online became even louder. People weren't just judging each event separately anymore. They were placing them side by side, and that contrast ended up driving an entire wave of conversation across the internet. And this is where the situation starts getting really interesting, because critics online have pointed out that this is not the first time Meghan has reportedly reacted this way when media coverage turns negative. People who follow royal media drama closely say there's been a noticeable pattern over the years. When coverage is glowing, relationships with outlets stay warm and friendly. But when articles become critical or uncomfortable, access suddenly appears to disappear fast. According to reports and industry chatter, several journalists and media insiders have claimed that once Meghan feels unfairly targeted, she tends to distance herself completely rather than publicly fight back. Vanity Fair was often mentioned in these conversations after coverage reportedly shifted in a direction she disliked. Writers publish something critical, tensions rise, and then communication allegedly cools off almost immediately. Critics argue this has become part of a broader strategy: control the environment, limit access, and stay close to outlets seen as supportive. But the NBC situation has people talking for a completely different reason. NBC is not some tiny publication or niche entertainment blog that can simply be ignored without consequences. This is one of the largest broadcasting companies in the United States, with enormous reach across television, streaming, news, and entertainment. Creating tension with a network that powerful is a much bigger gamble, especially at a time when media relationships matter more than ever for public figures trying to maintain visibility. What makes the whole thing even more complicated is Meghan's long history with CBS. For years, many people viewed CBS as her strongest media ally in America. The Oprah interview that shocked the world aired through CBS. Gayle King, who has publicly defended Harry and Meghan multiple times, remains one of the network's most recognizable personalities. Whenever the couple faced criticism, CBS often appeared to provide a more sympathetic space compared to other major outlets. But according to media analysts, that environment may not be as stable as it once was. Leadership changes inside major companies can completely shift priorities, tone, and relationships. CBS has reportedly gone through significant changes in ownership and direction, and several familiar figures who were viewed as especially friendly toward Harry and Meghan are no longer in the same positions they once held. Observers have noticed that the network's overall tone around celebrity and royal coverage has become less predictable than before. That leaves a major question hanging over everything. If tensions are growing with NBC, and CBS no longer feels like the guaranteed safe space it once may have been, where exactly does Meghan go next when it comes to major American media partnerships? And that question becomes even more serious once financial pressures enter the conversation. Reports from people said to be close to the couple have claimed their lifestyle in Montecito comes with extremely high yearly costs. Maintaining security, staff, property expenses, travel, business operations, and the overall image attached to their California life reportedly requires enormous amounts of money every single year. Some reports have placed the number at a minimum of $6 million annually just to maintain their core living expenses. And that figure allegedly does not even include major new projects, luxury additions, or unexpected costs. When people online started connecting those financial reports with the recent nonstop brand launches, interviews, streaming deals, and media appearances, the conversation suddenly became much bigger than one awkward promotional video or one bad week of headlines. Critics began asking whether every public move now feels increasingly tied to pressure, visibility, and the need to keep major opportunities flowing constantly. And according to reports, that $6 million a year is only the starting point. That number is reportedly just the baseline cost required to maintain their current lifestyle in Montecito, California. One of the biggest expenses by far is security, with claims that private protection alone may cost close to $3 million every single year. Then there's the massive mortgage tied to their luxury property, along with staffing, maintenance, travel, public relations teams, and all the other expenses attached to living at that level nonstop. That's a huge reason why the A's Ever brand was viewed by many observers as such an important business move. The lifestyle line, featuring jams, honey, candles, teas, and home-style products, was supposed to help create a polished, profitable brand identity that could eventually grow into a major source of long-term income. The vision looked ambitious on paper. A luxury lifestyle company tied to Meghan's image, marketed with elegance, exclusivity, and celebrity attention. But according to reactions online, the rollout has not exactly gone smoothly. Several products quickly became the subject of criticism and jokes across social media. One candle reportedly arrived to a customer without a wick, which instantly triggered mockery online because people could hardly believe it. The orange marmalade product also became a recurring punchline, with users posting reactions, memes, and sarcastic reviews that spread far beyond the brand's actual audience. The larger issue critics keep pointing to is that the company appears to be generating conversation more than consistent demand. There's attention, headlines, reaction videos, and endless social media debate. But many observers question whether the sales numbers are actually strong enough to support the kind of financial pressure attached to a multi-million-dollar lifestyle. In other words, visibility and profitability are not always the same thing. At the same time, several major entertainment projects tied to Harry and Meghan have struggled to maintain momentum. Their Spotify partnership ended long ago after enormous publicity surrounded the original deal. Netflix projects reportedly failed to create the lasting impact many executives and viewers expected. and other Hollywood opportunities that once seemed guaranteed have appeared far less certain over time. Even projects that received heavy promotion often faded from public discussion surprisingly quickly. That has led to a wave of online discussion about the original reason Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal life in the first place. A major part of their public message centered around independence. They wanted freedom from royal restrictions, freedom from palace control, and most importantly, financial independence from the monarchy. The idea was clear. They would build their own future, sign their own deals, and prove they could succeed entirely on their own terms. At first, the strategy seemed unstoppable. Massive contracts were announced, media companies competed for partnerships, and Hollywood appeared ready to welcome them as global power players. But years later, the situation looks much more complicated than many people expected. Now, according to these reports, maintaining their current position allegedly requires at least $6 million every single year just to avoid falling backward financially. Not massive expansion, not huge new investments, just maintaining the lifestyle and operations already in place. And as uncomfortable as those financial conversations may be, many royal watchers believe the growing tension surrounding Invictus could end up becoming an even bigger issue altogether. The Invictus Games was always supposed to be the one project almost everyone could support without hesitation. No matter where people stood on Harry and Meghan, the mission behind Invictus carried real emotional weight. A global sporting event centered around wounded and recovering veterans was viewed by many as one of Harry's strongest achievements because it connected to service, recovery, resilience, and community in a way that felt meaningful and authentic. That's exactly why the recent problems surrounding the organization have become so uncomfortable for people to watch. Critics, supporters, military families, and royal commentators are all reacting strongly because the stakes feel much bigger than ordinary celebrity drama. One of the biggest shocks came when Boeing reportedly pulled out of Invictus 2027. For an event that depends heavily on sponsorships, partnerships, and public support, losing a major corporate backer like that immediately raised serious questions. Then came another blow. Reports that the Australian government withdrew nearly £5 million in funding following Harry and Meghan's visit there. Those headlines only intensified concerns about the long-term financial stability of the Games. What made the situation even more alarming for some observers was the resurfacing of reports that the organization had entered bankruptcy proceedings back in 2023. Something many people online now say never received the level of public attention they expected at the time. Suddenly, discussions around Invictus shifted away from inspiring stories about athletes and toward difficult conversations about management, funding, sponsorship confidence, and financial sustainability. At the same time, the UK government reportedly committed around £26 million in public funding to support the continuation of the Games. That number sparked immediate debate across social media and British media outlets. Supporters argued the Games remain deeply valuable for veterans and deserve protection no matter what financial difficulties arise. Critics, however, questioned whether taxpayers should continue carrying such a heavy burden while sponsors appear to be stepping away. Then another layer of controversy entered the conversation when author Tom Bauer made claims in his recent book alleging that Invictus-related funds had been used for luxury travel expenses connected to Harry and Meghan, including private jets and high-end hotels. Those allegations have been disputed, and no formal wrongdoing has been established. Still, the accusations spread rapidly online because people were already nervous about the organization's financial condition. And whether the claims are true or not, many observers believe the reaction from sponsors tells its own story. Companies and donors tend to become extremely cautious once public controversy starts surrounding charitable organizations, especially ones connected to public figures. Every negative headline creates more pressure, more scrutiny, and more hesitation from future backers. For many people in the United Kingdom, especially those with strong connections to the military or deep respect for veterans, This entire situation feels especially emotional. The biggest frustration critics express is the fear that the focus has shifted away from wounded servicemen and women and toward nonstop media attention surrounding Harry and Meghan themselves. That perception, fair or unfair, has become one of the most damaging conversations surrounding Invictus right now. And right in the middle of all this tension, Harry made another move that immediately triggered debate online. On the very same day, King Charles traveled to Golders Green to personally meet members of the Jewish community, following recent attacks and rising concerns about anti-Semitism. An essay written under Harry's name appeared in the New Statesman discussing anti-Semitism in the United Kingdom. The timing instantly became a major topic of conversation. Some people defended Harry's decision, arguing that speaking publicly against anti-Semitism is always important regardless of timing. Others, however, felt the overlap created an awkward media collision, especially because the king's visit was already receiving major national attention. Critics online accused Harry of once again inserting himself into a sensitive public conversation, at a moment when focus was already directed toward the royal family in another way. The reactions became even louder because the royal family has traditionally approached these issues through carefully staged public appearances, meetings, and long-term charitable work, rather than political-style essays or opinion pieces. So when Harry's article appeared at the exact same moment Charles was making his own public gesture of solidarity, many commentators immediately framed it as another example of the growing distance between Harry's approach and the traditional royal style he once represented. The timing of Harry's essay immediately became one of the biggest talking points online, and many royal commentators did not believe it was accidental for even a second. Critics argued the overlap with King Charles's visit to Golders Green was simply too precise to ignore. While the king was quietly meeting members of the Jewish community in person following recent attacks and rising fears over anti-Semitism, Harry's article suddenly appeared in a major political publication on the exact same day. That coincidence sparked intense debate across British media almost instantly. One of the strongest reactions came from Dickie Arbiter, the former press secretary to Queen Elizabeth II, a man who spent decades inside royal operations and understands palace strategy better than most people alive. Arbiter reportedly used one very direct word to describe the situation: contrived. According to him, the timing looked carefully engineered rather than natural, and he suggested the release was driven by advisors and communications teams who understood exactly what kind of media collision it would create. His comments spread quickly because they touched on a growing criticism surrounding Harry in recent years. The belief among some observers that more and more of his public appearances, interviews, and statements now feel heavily managed and strategically packaged rather than spontaneous or personal. In fact, many people who follow Harry closely openly questioned whether he even wrote the essay himself. Online discussions exploded over the tone and language used in the piece. Critics argued the writing sounded unusually polished, structured, and politically calculated compared to Harry's more emotional and conversational public style. People kept comparing it to his memoir, where the writing often felt raw, personal, messy, and deeply emotional. This essay, by contrast, sounded to some readers like something carefully assembled by a professional communications operation with a very specific media objective. According to several commentators, the strategy behind the article appeared to serve two purposes at once. First, it placed Harry's name beside a serious global issue, keeping him connected to major social conversations and maintaining his public relevance. Second, critics believed the timing may have been designed to redirect part of the media spotlight away from Catherine's hugely successful Italy trip, which was generating overwhelmingly positive headlines around the world at the exact same moment. But if that was the plan, many observers believe it completely failed. The response to the article became increasingly critical as more outlets weighed in. The Jewish Chronicle published a detailed rebuttal challenging parts of the essay's arguments, and questioning the broader framing of the piece. Royal commentators across television and newspapers also began raising uncomfortable questions about Harry's authority to lecture Britain on anti-Semitism while living overseas and remaining disconnected from day-to-day British public life. Some critics even revived older controversies surrounding Harry, including the widely criticized incident years ago when he attended a costume party wearing a Nazi uniform. That controversy has followed him for years, and opponents argued it weakened his credibility when speaking publicly on issues tied to anti-Semitism and historical sensitivity. But perhaps the most damaging aspect of the entire situation was not the essay itself. It was the comparison people immediately made between Harry and his father. While Harry's name appeared beneath a carefully crafted political article published online, King Charles was physically present in Golders Green meeting community members face-to-face, shaking hands, listening quietly, and carrying out what many saw as traditional royal duty without speeches, dramatic statements, or attention-seeking headlines. That visual contrast ended up dominating much of the public conversation. To many royal watchers, it perfectly highlighted the growing difference between the two approaches. One side appeared focused on carefully managed messaging and media positioning, while the other projected calm, old-school royal service carried out directly in public without needing a headline attached to it. But when you step back and look at all these headlines together, the essay, the NBC fallout, the dramatic brand videos, the reported vow renewal discussions, many commentators believe they all point toward the exact same problem. Critics argue these moves feel less like confident victories and more like attempts to regain control of a public narrative that has already started slipping away. And according to a lot of people watching this unfold online, the reason that narrative shifted so dramatically can be seen clearly in those photographs from Italy. Catherine looked completely relaxed, completely natural, and fully comfortable, surrounded by enormous crowds of people who had traveled hours just for the chance to see her in person. There was no visible desperation, no heavy self-promotion, no need to dominate headlines through controversy. She simply showed up, focused on her project, interacted with people naturally, and the attention followed on its own. People often say Catherine has a way of making royal life look effortless. But what sometimes gets ignored is how much pressure, criticism, and invasion of privacy she endured over the years to reach that point. Long before she became Princess of Wales, photographers reportedly camped outside her apartment, chasing pictures and documenting every part of her personal life. After marrying William, the scrutiny only intensified. Every outfit, every hairstyle, every expression, every public appearance became material for nonstop public discussion and tabloid commentary. Then came one of the most invasive moments of all, the publication of private topless photographs taken without her consent back in 2012. The images spread globally and triggered outrage over privacy violations. Yet Catherine still continued carrying out public duties without publicly attacking individuals or launching endless media battles. Over the years, she also faced relentless speculation about her weight, her family relationships, her marriage, and even her personality. Stories appeared constantly. Rumors exploded online repeatedly. There were phone hacking scandals connected to parts of the British media, endless gossip cycles, and years where every public movement seemed analyzed under a microscope. Then came perhaps the hardest period of all. Last year, while Catherine was privately undergoing cancer treatment, social media became flooded with conspiracy theories surrounding her temporary absence from public life. Instead of patience or understanding, online speculation spiraled out of control. Strangers across the internet demanded explanations, created bizarre rumors, analyzed photographs obsessively, and treated a deeply personal health situation like entertainment content. Many people were shocked by how aggressive parts of the online reaction became. Catherine was reportedly dealing with a cancer diagnosis privately with her family, yet huge sections of social media continued pushing theories and demanding public proof of her condition. The pressure surrounding the situation became enormous. And despite all of that, critics point out something important. Catherine never responded with revenge interviews, public attacks, emotional television specials, or carefully leaked stories aimed at embarrassing other people. She stayed quiet until she personally decided she was ready to speak. When she finally addressed the cancer publicly, the message was strikingly simple. There was no dramatic production, no attempt to create scandal, and no effort to shift blame onto anyone else. In a calm video, she thanked her medical team, explained that she and William wanted time to process the situation privately as a family, especially for the sake of their children, and then she focused her message outward toward others facing similar struggles. "You are not alone." That became the line many people remembered most. And for a lot of viewers, that difference in tone is exactly why Catherine's public image has remained so strong even through years of pressure. While others appear caught in endless cycles of media management and public relations battles, Catherine's approach often comes across as quieter, steadier, and more grounded. And right now, many royal watchers believe that contrast has never been more obvious than it is at this moment. Not feel sorry for me. You are not alone. That was the message Catherine chose to leave people with. And for many viewers, it said everything about how differently she handles public pressure. So, when she later returned to full public duties and traveled alone to Italy, the reaction from the crowds did not feel forced or staged. People weren't responding to some flashy PR campaign or carefully engineered image rollout. They were reacting to someone they've watched for nearly 2 decades, someone many believe has stayed consistent, calm, and measured through years of intense public scrutiny without constantly demanding attention in return. That is the part critics say Meghan has struggled to recreate, no matter how many lifestyle videos, interviews, or media strategies are launched. Commentators online keep returning to the same point. Authenticity cannot simply be manufactured overnight. Public trust usually builds slowly over years. And once audiences decide whether someone feels genuine or overly managed, changing that perception becomes extremely difficult. Now attention is shifting toward what Meghan's next move could be. According to reports from insiders, discussions around a possible vow renewal ceremony are apparently happening behind the scenes. The reported framing is that Harry and Meghan never truly got the wedding experience they wanted because of tensions surrounding the royal institution at the time, and that renewing their vows would allow them to finally celebrate their marriage their own way. But that idea has already sparked strong reactions online. Many people immediately pointed out that their original royal wedding was one of the biggest televised events in modern history, watched by enormous audiences around the world. Because of that, critics are questioning why a second ceremony is necessary at all. According to several reports, some insiders believe the real motivation may be more commercial than emotional. A high-profile vow renewal would instantly generate headlines, media deals, streaming interest, photo licensing opportunities, and possibly even another documentary-style project. In other words, it creates content, and content creates revenue. What makes the timing even more interesting is that these discussions are reportedly happening while Harry is also said to be negotiating with palace officials regarding a possible UK return connected to Invictus, including reported concerns about security, treatment, and how Meghan would be received publicly if they return. You cannot negotiate respect. That's the point many commentators keep coming back to in all of this. Respect is not something people hand over because of titles, press coverage, or carefully managed image campaigns. Most people understand instinctively that respect is built slowly over time, through consistency, public behavior, hard work, and how someone treats others when the cameras are either on or off. Critics often point out that Catherine has never publicly demanded admiration or sympathy. Instead, she has spent years quietly building trust through steady public appearances, charity work, and a calm approach to royal life. Whether people personally love the monarchy or not, many observers believe that consistency is exactly why crowds continue responding so strongly to her. Now attention is turning toward the upcoming Australia trip with William and Catherine, and royal watchers already expect comparisons to explode online the moment the visit begins. That's because many people still remember the intense media attention surrounding Harry and Meghan's own Australia tour years ago. At the time, the trip generated both enormous popularity and significant controversy, with critics later questioning costs, media focus, and whether too much attention centered on the couple themselves rather than the communities they were visiting. Because of that history, this upcoming tour carries extra attention. But according to royal commentators, William and Catherine are unlikely to address Harry and Meghan directly in any way. There probably won't be dramatic speeches, indirect comments, or public attempts to respond to criticism. Instead, the expectation is much simpler. They will arrive, meet people, carry out engagements, focus on local issues, and continue with the kind of traditional royal approach audiences already expect from them. And many observers believe that is exactly where the strongest contrast appears. The monarchy rarely fights public battles directly. It generally avoids public arguments, avoids emotional interviews, and avoids constant media retaliation. Instead, it keeps moving forward with official duties and public appearances, allowing public opinion to shift naturally over time. According to critics, that is the lesson Meghan never fully understood. The royal institution often doesn't try to win publicly. It simply continues operating. And eventually, people start comparing the different approaches on their own. Meghan spent years trying to become the star of the monarchy, while Catherine spent those same years quietly becoming the future of it. And those are two completely different paths. Stars can dominate headlines for a moment, but institutions survive through consistency, patience, and trust built over time. What happened in Italy was not the beginning of this story. For many people watching, it felt like the moment the contrast between the two became impossible to ignore. Catherine stood alone in a foreign country, spoke the local language naturally, sat on the floor with children who ran toward her without hesitation, and connected with crowds that had traveled hours just for the chance to see her in person. That kind of reaction cannot simply be created through branding or media strategy. Critics online say it reflected nearly 20 years of steady public work, finally being seen all at once on the world stage. And because of that, many people believe no vow renewal, no political essay, no NBC drama, and no carefully produced lifestyle video is likely to shift the public image battle anytime soon. The conversation has moved beyond headlines and into something much bigger: perception, trust, and authenticity. Now all eyes are turning toward William and Catherine's upcoming Australia trip. Because if Italy created this much attention, people are already expecting the next chapter to be even bigger. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on everything happening right now.